Okay, so it's gonna be take two because take one rambling on for way too long. It's gonna be my first video instead of just range clips, but here to talk about Glock performance trigger. With all the California things going on with Glock, I've been playing around with them, seeing if I want to buy another one, seeing if I do buy one, what I want to do with it, how do I make the most out of it. As most of you know that know me, I like to build my guns out. Very few of my guns are stock, and most of my stuff is very Frankenstein, as you can see with this Glock. Now, again, no mag, check safe, check clear. Yeah, so this is a Glock 17, functionally. I can tell you more about how I got it here. It didn't start off as that in a different video, but in this, I have the Glock performance trigger. Now, what this does is it improves the break of the trigger. So that is, when I pull the trigger, that improves the break weight, improves, I think, the direction, motion of the break. But there's a multitude of issues with these triggers. The major one being the over travel, and you will know if you have the same trigger that the over travel is crazy. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the amount of distance the trigger travels. So here's the break after the break. Right here, this is over travel. And a quirk with the Glock performance trigger is you have the break, you have your little bit of over travel, but then if your slide cycles when you're shooting, as it cycles, as you can see, that trigger moved back a little bit more, right? So that's one issue with it. In playing with that, what I found was what I think is a pretty big issue. Now, I did another trick to kind of alleviate a little bit of that over travel. I can talk about that later. Very simple trick, and it changes nothing about the trigger assembly. Okay, so it shouldn't affect the reliability in this sense. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So at the moment, it's not a practical problem for me. It's more of a ergonomic problem. But here's what I found, right? This is first contact. This is what's supposed to happen. You pull the trigger, your slide cycles, right? You fire around, your slide cycles, and your trigger resets, and you can fire again, and you can pull the trigger again, right? But with the Glock performance trigger, if you pull the trigger and you put a little bit of extra pressure on it, and your slide cycles, right? Cycles all the way. Sometimes it becomes just a dead trigger, and it's very repeatable, right? Again, dead trigger. I can pull it, not put too much pressure on it, let it reset, and fire again. But if I put a little bit of extra pressure, that's a dead trigger. So that is now not a ergonomic problem. That is a reliability problem. And I'm buying a Glock, and I bought the performance trigger because it's Glock OEM, so I expect it to work like all other Glock things do. And it doesn't. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy, I already bought a Johnny Glock trigger shoe, which it's supposed to be a adjustable trigger shoe for pre-travel and over travel, I think. And that's what I have on my 320. I know, 320 grenade, whatever. But I really like that part of it. So I'm going to see if that fixes this. But as of right now, without it, I would not recommend anybody put the Glock performance trigger in their gun for any serious self-defense or duty use, right? For context, I have probably 1,500, 2,000 rounds through this gun in this configuration, and I didn't have a problem ever shooting it. At least I don't think. But just knowing that this could happen really takes my confidence out of the platform. And maybe if the Johnny Glock trigger fixes it, great. If not, then just I wouldn't suggest it for anything but competition, unless I myself got a lemon, which is possible. But I am one person. I'm not rich. I have the sample size of one, and there's not much else I can do. But at least in my experience, huge issue. Speaking of Glocks, posted on Instagram a little bit ago, I got a 34 slide I'm going to be playing with. Probably going to be more of a range toy slash potential competition if I do shoot competition's gun. So I'm gonna be a little bit more liberal in the way I build out the internals of the upper. Now, since I only have one lower, I'll keep the lower on this the way it is. But yeah, just a little update. First video. Hope that was helpful.